Now let us delve into.
White has become the standard color for airplanes' exteriors. While stylish, it's also a calculated decision by many airlines. White essentially reflects sunlight instead of absorbing it like other colors do. This is great for keeping the plane's interior temperature down. It's the same as getting into a white car on a sunny day. Its inside is probably cooler than a black car's would be. And since constant exposure to sunlight often causes many colors to fade anyway thanks to oxidation, white becomes a practical choice. White is easy to spot, whether in the air, on the ground, or in the case of a crash, in the sea. And it's easy to see cracks or chips in the paint when that paint is white. This detection is important because dirt and moisture can quickly collect in these chips, becoming sites of corrosion that could eat away at the aircraft's body. This is one reason, in fact, that planes are usually painted at all instead of being left as polished metal. Painted metal more readily resists corrosion than unpainted metal. You'll often see plastic, fiberglass, or carbon fiber painted white on planes, too. This is because these parts of the plane are easily susceptible to sun damage, which the white paint helps prevent. So, why aren't all planes pure white? Advertising. After a white base, airlines will often paint their brand name on the side and their colors on the tail of the plane.
researchers trained a program to detect when a smile is genuine. Visual computing researchers at the University of Bradford in the UK started with software for analyzing a changing facial expression. This program can examine a video clip of a human head and identify specific details around the eyes, cheeks, and mouth. Then the program tracks the details moving relative to each other as the face smiles. Next, the scientists had their program evaluate 2 sets of video clips. In one, subjects performed posed smiles. In the other, they watched a film that inspired genuine displays of emotion. The program calculated the differences among the subjects' faces during the 2 clips, and it turns out that your mouth, cheeks, and eyes move differently when you're faking that smirk. In particular, the muscles around the eyes shift 10% more for a real smile than they do for a fake one. These results are in the journal Advanced Engineering Informatics.
In years past, doctors were afraid to let heart patients exercise. When my father had a heart attack in 1968, he was kept sedentary for 6 weeks. Now, heart attack patients are in bed barely half a day before they're up and moving. Dr. Moffitt said, "The core of cardiac rehab is a progressive exercise program to increase the ability of the heart to pump oxygen and nutrient-rich blood more effectively throughout the body. The outcome is better endurance, greater ability to enjoy life, and decreased mortality. The same goes for patients with congestive heart failure. Heart failure patients as old as 91 can increase their oxygen consumption significantly," Dr. Moffitt said. Aerobic exercise lowers blood pressure in people with hypertension, and it improves peripheral circulation in people who develop cramping leg pains when they walk, a condition called intermittent claudication. The treatment for it, in fact, is to walk a little farther each day. In people who have had transient ischemic attacks or mini-strokes, gradually increasing exercise improves blood flow to the brain and may diminish the risk of a full-blown stroke, Dr. Moffitt said. And aerobic and strength exercises have been shown to improve endurance, walking speed, and the ability to perform tasks of daily living, up to 6 years after a stroke. As Randy knows, moderate exercise cuts the risk of developing diabetes. And for those with diabetes, exercise improves glucose tolerance. Less medication is needed to control blood sugar, and reduces the risk of life-threatening complications.
actually want to caution always try to best understand your partner's specific communication styles. A lot of times we'll take it personally.
Urban development is the first thing I wanted to talk about here in Perth. Urban development is going on at a great pace, and the standard approach here in Western Australia is for suburban development to happen at the outer edges of the city. You have suburbs slowly spreading out into areas that are cleared, and this is eating into both areas of native bushland and land that used to be used for farming, for agricultural purposes. The debate here is that, on one side, there's the idea that we need more housing. We have a housing shortage in Western Australia, and suburban expansion is essential. Suburban expansion on the edges of the city is cheaper and easier to do than building more homes within the city, even though it's recognised it creates lots of problems with infrastructure and so on. On the other side of the debate, people say that urban sprawl is destroying bush and, consequently, the natural wildlife that exists there, and that it's too easy for developers to ignore these facts.
A taxi driver in
It is claimed by neuroscientists, among others, that speaking 2 or more languages increases cognitive abilities and in some way rewires the brain, as it were, in a way that positively affects how the brain works. And it's true that we tend to think of people who can speak 2 or more languages as being bright. Learning a language is, anyway, good mental exercise, not to mention its benefits in introducing you to other peoples and cultures. This is why all school curricula should include at least one compulsory foreign language. Anyone who knows 2 languages will find that in certain circumstances they compete for position, the vocabulary of one getting in the way of the other. Often, bi- or multilingual people find one language more suitable for expressing certain kinds of thoughts or feelings. There is another view on being bilingual, not from a neuroscientist, but from someone whose business involves words and language. Brought up in a bilingual home, speaking Greek and French, and also fluent in English, she is old enough to remember when her native language, Greek, was also in effect 2 languages. There was the formal correct form, katharevousa, which was taught and spoken in schools, written in newspapers and books, and so on, and the everyday demotic language you used with your friends. As for her view on bilingualism, she says that you end up with a split personality.
Listening to the soft rustle of the leaves, it's a sound that you simply cannot hear with
first study.
These days, nearly everyone with a mobile phone is able to take photographs, or even make a video. But originally, cameras were so large and heavy that photography's appeal as a pastime was limited to a few enthusiasts. Also, the time needed for the exposure meant that your subjects, if you were photographing people, had to remain still for what must have seemed like a very long time. Movement would come out as a blur in the picture, or, if someone walked across the view of the lens, would not register at all, which is why early photographs of city streets appear deserted. In other words, all pictures had to be posed. However, as early as the 1880s, manufacturers in both Europe and America began producing miniature models, some of them small enough to be hidden in people's clothing. Cameras came in all shapes and sizes. Handbags, walking stick handles, and tie pins were among the oddest, and were collectively known as detective cameras. This was not because they were used in police work, but because the user could move about without attracting attention.
What we're going to find out today is how it's a bit more complicated than that, which it always is, and I think it's really wonderful. I mean, not being an experimental scientist myself, I have a kind of envy at the way in which science can continue to surprise us by this, people working away in labs, moving on understanding in ways. Hugo is a cognitive scientist at the French National Centre for Scientific Research. Hugo Mercier.
The world has changed. The economics of the world have changed, and the art market has come in behind that. Absolutely, and it is part of the reason why Christie's left Australia and no longer has an office here. And Sotheby, it's basically a branch or a foundation, for want of a better word, of Sotheby's International. So neither auction firm has a really permanent international existence in Australia because they are focusing their attention on the places they can make money, which is the Middle East, India, and Asia.
It's important to use your study time in a smart way. It's important to use your study time in a smart way. If you need more help, the school's help center is there. Scientists are working hard to understand climate change better. Starting off right with a good introduction is really important. It's tough but important to work on keeping our planet healthy. Writers often put a bit of their culture in their work. A new article talks about all kinds of cool experiments. A well-done school paper is always easy to understand and organize. The same features in the device explain the issue every time. In college, you'll learn many new things and gain skills. Cheating on an exam can get you into serious trouble. They will test your knowledge with difficult questions in class. Remember to write down where you got your information for homework. This course section teaches you a new method of creating